If you're a hustler type A, this probably sounds familiar. When something matters, you push harder. You take responsibility, you stay late, you solve the problem yourself instead of waiting for someone else to step in. And most of the time, it works. You get results, you move things forward. You're the person people rely on when things get serious. But at some point, that same drive starts to feel heavy. You're doing more than ever, yet it feels harder to breathe. You're productive, but not satisfied. And no matter how much you accomplish, it never feels like enough.
And the confusing part is that nothing is technically wrong. From the outside, you look successful, things are moving, you're checking boxes, you're showing up, but internally there's this quiet tension, a sense that you're carrying too much for too long. Hustlers don't usually describe themselves as burned out. They describe themselves as frustrated, impatient, or constantly behind. Because for a hustler, slowing down doesn't feel like relief, it feels risky.
So if you've ever thought, I can't stop now, or once the season is over, then I'll rest, this video is for you. Not because your drive is the problem, but because your drive needs direction if you want it to keep working for you long term.
Let's start by naming what actually defines a hustler type A. Hustlers are action-oriented. When there's uncertainty, they don't freeze, they move. They feel safest when something is happening. Progress equals stability, and effort equals control. Hustlers tend to believe, consciously or not, that if they just do enough, everything will work out.
Hustlers also tend to carry responsibility automatically. They don't wait to be asked. They notice gaps and fill them. If something falls through, they assume it's on them to fix it. This makes them incredible leaders, builders, and problem solvers. But it also means hustlers rarely stop to ask a very important question. Is this actually mine to carry?
And here's something hustlers need to hear clearly. Your drive is not accidental. It's not insecurity, and it's not overcompensation. It's a real strength. Hustlers are the reason momentum exists in a lot of organizations, families, and businesses. The problem isn't that you push. The problem is that pushing becomes your only setting.
Here's the loop hustlers get stuck in. Pressure shows up. A deadline, a problem, a risk, or responsibility. And your instinct is to push harder, add hours, tighten control, do more yourself. This effort creates short-term relief because things start moving again. But the cost is cumulative. Over time, the load gets heavier, not lighter.
And because hustlers are used to effort working, they don't question the strategy. They just double down. More effort, less margin, fewer pauses. Eventually, exhaustion creeps in. But instead of resting, hustlers often push through. They tell themselves they'll slow down later, after this launch, after this season, after this problem is solved.
But here's the truth. There's always another problem, another deadline, another responsibility. Hustlers don't burn out because they're weak. They burn out because they're effective, and no one has taught them when to stop applying pressure.
This is why generic advice falls flat for hustlers. Being told to slow down or rest more doesn't feel helpful. It feels disconnected from your reality. Hustlers don't want to stop caring. They don't want to disengage. They don't want to coast. They want to stay effective without paying for it with their health, relationships, or peace of mind.
And telling a hustler to simply do less ignores how they're wired. Hustlers regulate stress through action. Movement calms them. Progress reassures them. So when you take action away without giving direction, all you do is increase their anxiety. The goal isn't to reduce effort. The goal is to aim that effort.
At the core of the hustler pattern is unfiltered responsibility. Hustlers feel responsible for outcomes that aren't fully within their control. They carry emotional weight, logistical weight, and decision-making weight, often without realizing how much they've taken on.
Hustlers rarely ask, what's actually required here? They ask, what more can I do? And that subtle shift matters, because when you don't filter responsibility, every single problem becomes yours. Every delay becomes personal. Every gap becomes a signal that you need to step in.
And over time, that creates resentment. Not because others are failing, but because you've quietly overextended yourself.
So let's talk solutions. And we're not starting with rest schedules or time blocking. The first solution hustlers need is direction. Hustlers don't need to work less. They need to decide where their effort actually belongs.
Direction starts with this question: what is the highest impact use of my energy right now? Not the loudest problem, not the most urgent request, not the thing that makes you feel needed. Impact.
Hustlers thrive when their effort is aligned. When you know what actually moves the needle, your drive becomes an asset again instead of a liability.
One of the most powerful shifts for hustlers is defining a stopping point before they start. Hustlers are great at starting. They're not always great at knowing when enough is enough.
Instead of asking, what more can I do? Start asking, what does done look like? Not perfect, not ideal, just done. A clear finish line protects you from endless effort.
When you don't define done, your brain assumes there's always more required, and that keeps hustlers locked in constant output mode.
This next one is huge. Hustlers often tie their value to how much they're producing. If they're busy, they feel useful. If they're resting, they feel uneasy. But effort is not the same thing as value.
Some of the most valuable work hustlers can do looks quiet. Thinking, deciding, delegating, and saying no. But because those things don't feel productive in the same way, hustlers often avoid them.
Learning to separate effort from worth is what allows hustlers to stay effective without overextending.
Pauses don't kill momentum. They protect it. Hustlers tend to think that if they stop, everything will fall apart. But the opposite is usually true.
Strategic pauses allow you to reassess direction. They prevent wasted effort. They help you catch problems early instead of pushing through until something breaks.
This doesn't mean long breaks or complete disengagement. It means intentional check-ins that ask, is this still the right direction?
Not every problem is yours to solve. Not every outcome is yours to carry. Hustlers need filters. Before stepping in, ask, is this my responsibility or just something that I'm capable of doing?
And capability creates temptation. Just because you can handle something doesn't mean you should. Filtering responsibility protects your energy for the things that actually require you.
When hustlers apply direction instead of just effort, everything changes. Work feels lighter without becoming less meaningful. Progress feels satisfying again. Rest stops feeling dangerous.
You still get to be driven. You still get to care deeply. You just stop paying for it with constant tension and exhaustion.
If you're a hustler, here's the action to take this week. Decide what actually deserves your effort. Pick one outcome that matters most and let the rest wait.
That single decision changes how your drive works. It turns effort into progress instead of pressure.
Your drive isn't meant to carry everything. It's meant to move the right things forward.
And when you use it that way, it stops draining you and starts working for you again.